Okay, so no more Prelude 2 spoilers, back to my usual videos. So let's finish the base game corporation tier list. And so today it's going to be the flexible ones. That's Terractor, Credicor, Tharsis, and Thorgate. And yes, I do consider Thorgate to be very flexible, even if less powerful than the other ones. Spoiler alert. But yeah, again, if you want to see how the tiers work or how the whole ranking works, quick summary is just gonna be, I'm gonna rank them based on every expansion and move them as I speak of each one. And for more details, watch the first video in the series up there. Okay, so let's get started. Credicor. So Creadicor, I think by many people considered the best corporation when the game came out. Well, maybe Tharsis at first, but then most people switched to Credicor. I've never had that much success with it. Now it's obviously solid. Anything with that starting capital is going to be very flexible, and the effect is pretty good. A lot of good cards that cost more than 20, and getting 4 back is actually a lot. Even if maybe not percentage wise, but it's, I mean, rebates of 4 are rare in Terraforming Mars. It's usually 3 and 2, so I mean it's pretty good. I might be underrating it because I don't really win with it that much. I win with some more corporations a bit more, and that's really all I can rank it based on. But then I can't move it up to the best because remember, the difference between these two is that this has something that just puts it above all the solid ones. And while I think Credicor is very solid, I don't think that exists, and we might see an example of what I mean later. Now, Credicor, because it's very flexible, it's also not very theme. Like, it doesn't have a lot of combos early. There's a few later, other than cards that cost 20, because this wasn't a theme in the base game. Now, mostly in the promos, they've released a few effects that combo with this, and they're all pretty good. And there's also like from Colony's spin-off department. So now it has a few combos. It's still like a few cards like that. It's probably less than 5 that do things when something costs more than 20. But it's a little better now. But that means it's also just not a corporation that you get broken hands with. It's just always good. One of the main problems in the base game is that the milestones can be hard. I mean, you do have that standard project advantage for cities and greeneries, so it's a bit cheaper, but you don't want to do that ideally. You'd rather play cards that give you greeneries and cities and not the standard project early. But you really Terraformer, and you don't get anything for that. I guess Planner would be your best bet, and Builder depends on your hand, with no tags. So that would be, to me, the main weakness in the base game. And Hellas Annihilation really didn't change that. I don't think there are any awards or milestones that really benefit Creadicor. Again, Polar Explorer, it's probably good because you can play cities in the pole, and it's basically the same as Mayor if you go that way. But yeah, not much there. So I don't think it changes, and it's gonna be a thing with Creadicor. It really, to me, it hasn't moved much with anything that's happened. Venus did add a bunch of expensive cards that Terraform Venus, but those are usually the least. The worst cards in the Venus decks are the really expensive cards that Terraform Venus, so it did add a good amount of cost 20 and more cards, but none are very good. I think Atmoscope is probably my favorite of those. Other than that, they're not that cost effective. Moving on to Preludes, and think about Preludes. What if you think, what's your ideal Prelude with Credicor? Can you name one, or can you just go? I mean, it's gonna depend on your hand, and that's basically. I mean, you definitely don't want something like Loan or Donation. I mean, you never want Loan, but Donation is for corporations with little starting capital. You don't want to be having, 40 cash left over. Probably the ones that draw you cards are the best ones, but really it's really about what combos with your hand. Now, I'm not saying Prelude was bad or good for Creadicor. I'm saying it affects the hand you get with Creadicor, not Creadicor itself. I think there's a slight bigger advantage with colonies because you are more able to spend money early on energy and get your trade going. But again, and their spin-off department. But again, this theme of 20 cost, just having money and playing big cards, it doesn't move really. And the same thing with turmoil. Like what's Credicor's party? You probably want an engine game most of the time, so probably Unity or the Scientists to draw some cards if you have a lot of money and not a lot to play. But you could also go for a ground game with Credicor standard predictability and have the greens there for a big discount of 8 on a greenery, which is great. Or you know, 8 on a city, which is 16 for a city. That's pretty good too. Sorry, it will be 2 on a city because you get a steal back with the Mars first. So yeah, I think Turmoil probably that greens in power, if you go for a Credicor ground game, is the best thing that happens to Credicor throughout all the expansions. But I don't think it's enough to move it to the best. I don't think that combo is solid enough. You know, it's a greenery for 15. You know, it's pretty good, but you're not just gonna do that all game, right? You're gonna do probably other things, and the greens only come into power every so often. So yeah, I just think it's always been a solid corporation. There's nothing that's gonna make it weaker. There's very little that's gonna make it a lot stronger. And yeah, that's it for Credicor. Now, Terractor. I've always liked Terractor more than Credicor, and I know that's probably I'm on the unpopular side of that. Because, well, I mean, let's look at the differences. It's 3 more cash for Terractor, which is almost like negligible. But Terractor gets a discount of 3 on Earth tax. Credicor gets a rebate of 4 on cards that cost 20 or more. Now, there are more cards that cost 20 or more than cards with Earth tax, and the rebate is bigger. So that would lead you to think that Creadicor might be better. But the thing is, Earth tax are all great. Okay, all good. There are very few Earth tax that I don't play, and they're cheaper. So I mean, paying 7 for Acquired Company to me is a bigger deal than paying 32 for Giant-Sized Asteroid. And Giant-Sized Asteroid is definitely the better card here. So I'm taking probably one of the best cost 20 cards against an okay Earth tag. But the percentual discount is more. So that to me is really important. You're just getting that cash back from Acquired Company a lot faster because of that. And the other thing is that Terractor has the Earth tech, which is useful for a few things in the base game. It's like Cartel and Miranda Resort. But as the game progresses, well, we'll see that Terractor Earth techs become more of a theme. And for example, in Venus, you get Luna Metropolis and Gyropolis that both have the same effect. So I mean, those cards aren't super playable. You need to be for a really long engine game. But yeah, it definitely makes the Earth tag better. And Earth tag just continue to get solid. It also has Earth Office from the base game that combos great with it, something that Credicor doesn't have. In terms of milestones and awards, though, it's the same as Credicor, really. I mean, Credicor has a better road to the Mayor and Gardener than Terractor, but yeah, it's the same for Terractor. You have to go for Planner, pretty much, unless your cards tell you otherwise. And Hells and Elysium doesn't really change that at all. So I don't think it's really affected by Hells and Elysium. I think it is improved by Venus a bit because Venus has a few Earth tags and a few Venus plus Earth combos that do make it a little better. Preludes. So Preludes, I think Terractor gets a little better with Preludes, and 2 of the best Preludes in the game have Earth tags. Actually, there's 3 Preludes with Earth tags. Business Empire, which is great, the best one for Terractor, I would argue, because you have a lot of starting capital, so you would take that over Allied Bank, because in the long run it's better, and you don't care so much about the initial +9 cash that you get from Allied Bank, because cash isn't that much of an issue early. But then Allied Bank, like, it's also great. So those two preludes are super solid, and Terractor, you know, it goes with them, not in terms of the discount, but in terms of like Terractor's strategy of just playing a lot of Earth decks and then playing Earth combo cards, right? Or cards that have Earth requirements, which come in the future, so I won't consider that now. However, the other one would be UNMI Contractor, which I think it's decent. It's a card which Terractor always likes because they have the cash to play cards, and it's 3 Terraforming rating, which is great. 3 victory points. So that one's good for Terractor too, and it links into his strategy. Now, while other preludes are good, I think the ones that draw cards, like with Credicor, same thing. You have a lot of cash, you just want to play a lot of things in the first round and just get a head start that way. Colonies introduce also a very good Earth decks, like Luna Governor, Heavy Taxation, Lunar Mining, and Sky Docks. All of which make Terractor better. The colonies itself, like Terractor, is even more dependent on the cards that it draws than Credicor on its strategy. And I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying that Terractor has that ground game minor theme that it can do mostly at the end of the game. Terractor doesn't have this, so it's more dependent on its the way it's gonna play is more depending on its hand, and so the colonies themselves, none of them align with Terractor. But again, starting with a lot of cash is good for colonies because it lets you do more stuff early, which you want to do with colonies. And Turmoil, the main thing with Turmoil is that it does the Unity Party, which is obviously great for Terractor. It leans again heavily into playing lots of Earth decks, and Venus and Jovian tags, which are often Indian game tags and not Russian game tags. So it's good for that, and obviously the Scientists say the same thing. But I do think Turmoil did more for Creadicor than Terractor because of the greens. I don't think that's enough to put Terractor below Creadicor, because Terractor just got way more cards through every expansion that were good for it than Creadicor. Again, things like Space Hotels, Luna Governor, Sky Docks, all of those things are better with Terractor. So, yeah, I've always liked Terractor more, and I know Credicor is the more popular choice, but right now Terractor is in first place. So let's talk about Tharsis, and yeah, I'm gonna put it there. Now, Tharsis' reputation is sort of the corporation that we all thought was really good when we started playing the game, and then it became, not bad, but just okay. I don't think that's true. I think Tharsis is actually still the best corporation in just the base game. And the reason is, it starts with 43 cash when you're gonna get the bonus for your city and 1 money production and the city, right? And then you get that bonus, which is pretty insane that you get both the bonus for playing cities and other people playing cities. So it's just a solid starting place. Remember, there's no preludes, so unless someone was willing to play a city as their first action, you always got the best city spot on the board. And probably the best too. And if someone's playing cities early, then they're helping you. So it's the best ground game in the base game, but also the milestones in the Tharsis map, which is the only map available in the Tharsis. That's what I think takes it from always solid to the best. This is what I mean by having that one thing that just makes you, a bit broken. And if you look at the milestones in the base game, Mayor is theirs. Taking Mayor from Tharsis is super hard, and usually kind of helps them, especially if you fail trying and you place 2 cities and they get that third before you do. Then you really messed up, because now they have a lot of income, and probably some money too. Then there's Gardener. Now Tharsis doesn't have anything that helps him. Gardener has faster, like Ecoline, that has plants, but or even Credicor that gets at least count. But getting plants is part of their strategy, right? So even though they don't have a real advantage on Gardener, the fact that you can place your greeneries protected by a city early and well, I mean, I guess pick up plants from the cities is a really small advantage. It's good for Gardener. So you're the best one for Mayor. You are probably the third best for Gardener after Ecoline and Credicor. And then for Builder, only Mining Guild and Interpara Cinematics are better. Yeah, and that's because, well, you have a building tag in your corporation, but nearly all cities have building tags except the space ones, but the ones you want to place are usually the other ones. And then the energy that you usually want to play before in order to play those cities usually also has a building tag. So Tharsis is going to play a lot of building tags. So and get their play towards their strategy in doing so, which is very good for them. So it's not weird to see a game in just the base game. So Tharsis map, no preludes. Go for Tharsis. The reason I think people have forgotten how good it is to an extent, because it is true that I think we all used to play more cities than we needed to. So even then, it was probably slightly overrated. I just think it is as overrated as most people think. And I think that's because people forgot how hard it is to rush the game without preludes, and how easy it is to get all milestones with Tharsis when you're always playing on the Tharsis map. I think a lot of people's opinions on Corporation are based on the current version of the game in Steam, and remember that's basically the two expansions that hurt Tharsis the most, which are preludes, which make it more viable for something like Ecoline to rush the game and not worry about cities. Remember, cities are just point cards in the end. So if you have a game more focused on terraforming, where you don't have that time or the money to really get a lot of 3 or 4 points out of every city should be what you aim for, then it's not as good. And when you play only 1/3 of the games in the board that it has 3 milestones to go for, then it's not as good. But in the base board without preludes, I don't think rushing the game. It's really hard to me to finish a game, 7 or 8 generations, unless you're playing with 4 or 5 players. But I'm mostly basing these rankings on 2 and 3 players. And then it's just too hard to fight them for milestones. So just to think about it, of the other 11 corporations, there's 7 of them for which Tharsis will have an advantage on 3 milestones, for sure. And that's almost 2/3. So for 2/3 of the corporations, you're gonna have an advantage on 3 milestones, and the ones that get an advantage on the other 2 are Inventrix for Planner and UNMI for Terraformer. So if you're, Helion, Phobologue, Saturn, or Terractor, you're really facing an uphill battle against Tharsis. But yeah, that's why I think it is the best in the base game. And I haven't played the base game in a while without prelude, so I'd have to try that. But yeah, I still think it's the best then. Then came Hellas and Elysium, and that's, to me, is just enough to go like that. And yeah, it's gonna put it behind Terractor, just because once you don't have those 3 milestones to go for, I mean, Hellas and Elysium still have some stuff for it, but like, Polar Explorer, for example, but losing that advantage, to me, just Terractor's flexibility is above it. So yeah, to me, that losing those 3 milestones moves Tharsis down from the best to always solid. Then preludes. I think preludes is weird. So because I think preludes just make it a lot easier to rush the game, which I don't think Tharsis ever wants. because your strength is in city points, right? If you want to get a lot of cities and players to place a lot of cities for you to win. However, people don't do that when they rush the game. They usually just place a lot of greeneries next to the oceans and finish the game as fast as possible. Now you're still decent in stealing points from them, but it's not great for you to make it easy to rush the game. However, one thing about Tharsis is that it's just very flexible, because there are so many preludes that work with it. So both city preludes, which are maybe slightly below average in terms of quality, are very good with Tharsis. For example, think of self-sufficient settlement. You get 3 money production and 3 cashback, which is almost allied bank, and then a city. So it just makes self-sufficient settlement so good. And then plants preludes are always great with Tharsis, because that's the main thing you want to develop early, plant production, so that you can place a lot of greeneries next to your cities. But then steel preludes are also good, because you're gonna play cities from your hand, and those usually cost steel. And then energy preludes are great, because most cities cost energy, and if you have a bunch in your hand, and those are good. And all those preludes together are gonna make up nearly half the preludes out there. The ones you really don't care about are terraforming preludes, unless you have a. But probably Great Aquifer is good if you have something like algae. And cash preludes really aren't that good, but they're flexible enough that they're not bad for you, and you don't start with that much cash. So if you have a lot of cards you like, cash preludes are actually good. There are very few preludes that I say are bad for Tharsis, maybe Heat. But Heat sucks. So it kind of made it bad, but it also made it a little good, in that Tharsis is the one that I think has synergy with the most preludes out of all the corporations in the base game. And then Venus. Now Venus added 5 cities. There's 4 in space, and those I don't like to play those as much with Tharsis. Remember that your bonus is on Mars, so it's really not that great for you. And then the one that it added to play on Mars is Gyropolis, which is a city that requires you to be on a very heavy engine game for it to be worth it. So it's a pretty good city, but really it's gonna be better for Terractor than Tharsis in most cases. So it's not even a city that you want that much. Then for colonies, again, colonies didn't add many cities, but it did add Ganymede, which I think having a way to get early plans for Tharsis can be really good. And I do. It's one of the few corporations where I go for Ganymede, because you need to get plans as early as possible so that you can start accumulating points on your cities, right? So yeah, I think the addition of Ganymede is good, but it really doesn't move it up or down beyond that. And finally, Turmoil. I think Mars First is probably the best corporation for Tharsis. Now remember, you're never going to have it in power for your first action, because that's the greens that are in power the first generation. Other than that, really, I don't think Turmoil helps Tharsis a lot. So I don't think it moves after you take it down from the Hellas and Elysium. I don't think it moves up or down that much. I do still think it's really solid. I like it better than Credicor, and again, that could be my bias, because I just don't win that often with Credicor, whereas Tharsis I usually do pretty well with. It's a corporation that I'm very used to playing, and that's another thing that affects this. Like, if you choose a corporation more, you're probably better at knowing how to play it, and then that'll make you choose it even more. It's sort of like a cycle. But yeah, I do think it's better than Creadicor still, and yeah, it's gonna finish there and always solid. So let's talk about the last one, Thorgate. And I did include this as the flexes, not just because I'm doing groups of 4, but because I do think it's very flexible. Now, it doesn't start out very good, but I should say, just like with Credicor, I don't win there often. Thorgate, I almost never lose. And I know it's not that strong. Like, if you just analyze the bonus and compare it to Terractor, so you start with 12 less cash but an energy. Now Terractor could play 11 very expensive energy and you know, almost equal that, but Terractor instead has more flexibility and cheaper ways to get the energy maybe. But then the bonus, again similar to Terractor, gets a 3 discount on Earth tags, Thorgate gets a 3 discount on energy tags. The difference though is that Earth tags are amazing and you play nearly everyone you draw during the game. And energy tags give you energy, which you will need. You'll always play a couple of energy tags, most likely. But I've never played that many. So, I mean, most players, if you see the energy tag count, it's going to be 2 or 3 at the end of the game, maybe 4. So it's not that good, but I do think it's flexible, and that's because you can do a lot of different things with energy. You can let it turn into heat and do a rush of the game, but then it's going to be slightly slower because you have to wait an extra generation. You can use it to bump the oxygen, which is also a way to rush. You can use it to play cities for a ground game, or you can use it if you want to go like for an engine game and just get income. There's cards like Fuel Factory and Building Industries and Electro Catapult that are just great economy builders if you have that starting energy or if you can get energy cheap. Otherwise, they're a bit pricey, but yeah, for Thorgate, they're not. Like, starting the game with the Building Industries or Fuel Factory for Thorgate it's awesome. But why am I ranking it this low? It's again because it has the most underwhelming bonus of all the cards here, except perhaps maybe Helion, and that's only because I hate Helion. So, to be honest, in the base game, just because I win more with it, I would rank it probably over Ecoline. But I know I'm wrong about that. I'm just very used to playing it, and I don't know. I know what works with it. And yeah, let's talk about the expansions. So I mean, Energizer is probably the biggest thing that happens to it with Hellas and Elysium, and it's still like not enough for me to move it. It really didn't have a path to any milestones in the base game, and now it has a path to one, so that's good. But yeah, it's still probably not good enough for me to move it. Venus doesn't do a lot with energy. So yeah, it doesn't get much from Venus. Preludes, again, they like getting energy preludes is not actually good for Thorgate because you actually want to take advantage of your discount, so you want to get another prelude and then play cheaper energy cards. And because it's flexible, again, it's gonna depend on your hand. Are you rushing with hidden bumpers? Are you playing cities and going for a ground game, or are you just doing income? And so the preludes are just not gonna really depend on Thorgate. They're gonna depend on your hand. But then came colonies, and colonies alone, it's just enough to move it up a tier. The fact that I mean everyone is fighting to get 3 energy in colonies, right? Because it's the best way to trade, it's the cheapest by far. And the maximum cost for Thorgate is 16. It's just 2 standard projects and your starting energy, and then you can trade for free the rest of the game, essentially. You pay 16 on the first hand, you can trade for free in the rest of the game. If you think about it, that's less than 2 trades if you pay with cash, because each costs 9, which so 2 would be 18. But for every other corporation, the maximum they would pay if you do the same thing is 33. So it's more than double. Now, no one does that. No one pays 3 standard projects for it. They wait for energy cards, but sometimes they're left like half of the game waiting because people are just drafting them. And with Thorgate, I mean, if you see them, you draft them. But if you don't, you just pay for your energy. And if you get a second fleet, then it's even better because you're probably going to keep some energy cards anyway. And if not, you can just pay 24 later in the game. Which, I mean, 24 is a little high, but you maybe have one, pay 16 again. And you get to 6, and you have your second trade fleet, and it's cheaper for you. So, I mean, energy just became a much better resource in colonies, which made Thorgate move which makes Thorgate move to playable for me. It's just that relevant to have energy. Trommel did nothing for it. I mean, the colonies suck. I hate them, and energy gets really neglected in colonies. It adds the Calvinist is better than the energy standard price for everyone except Thorgate, because Thorgate can pay 8 for it, and the other ones again they're gonna depend on your hand, what you're playing. So yeah, Trommel, I don't think it does much for Thorgate. It's probably one of the ones that likes it the least because it doesn't add a party that you can lean to, like, for sure. It just, you know. So yeah, I think this is where Thorgate finishes. Again, I rank it, I think, higher than I should in the base game. But after colonies, I think most people would agree Thorgate is playable. I don't think it's a combo corporation. But I do think it's playable, and getting those 3 energies is just awesome. And yeah. Anyway, that's it for my video today. So we finished with no corporations from the biggest game in the best. Don't worry, we'll get to those when we get to preludes probably. But yeah, next up I'll be doing Venus. So yeah, let me know what you think, and see you next time.